So at first we worked with the timeline and then we worked with a dope sheet. Now we're going to be working with the graph editor. So timeline is the easiest, dope sheet is next up, and then graph editor is going to be the most control. And I would say I spend 99% of the time when I'm animating inside of the graph editor. So what are the benefits of the graph editor? Let's just set a couple keyframes to play around with this. I'll go ahead and then click location to keyframe location. And then I'll just simply move this over here. And then before I move this, you'll see that we're actually moving the pivot here. So if you have that mode on currently, what you want to do is click off of that by hitting Control period. So we don't want to do that while we're actually moving this. We can have that on while we actually are playing it back. But we'll just do Control period to turn that off. So I'll just move this up here over like this, and we'll just do I location. And then with our mouse hovered over here, what I'm going to do is hit the home key. I'm going to give myself some more room to work here. And you'll see here, if we select these keyframes, we have some really interesting stuff going on. And this essentially is going to be a graph of our keyframes in terms of interpolation and the keyframe itself. So we talked a bit about interpolations before. So we have constant, linear, and Bezier, right? In the dope sheet, we have very little control over this, but in the graph editor, we can actually see how these are working, right? And then if we click on this one, you can say, okay, this is going to be linear, and then this one is going to be Bezier, right? So this is where we gain a lot of control over what these keyframes are doing when it goes from one keyframe to the other. So for example here, if I just simply select this keyframe, I can now start moving this around, right? And if I go to the middle and I can just simply keyframe it again, I'll hit I location, I'm going to select nothing, hit home again, and then that's going to frame everything. And then I can simply see here, we now have room to be able to play with this stuff. So it can kind of, go in one way and then ramp out the other way. There's a lot more control. And on top of this, we can start doing all sorts of stuff like this. If we select the keyframe, if we right click and go to our handle type, if we set this to free, for example, we now have the ability to do Bezier curves, and we can have this be more of a linear stop as well. So you gain a lot of control doing it this way. Some more handle types. If we come in here, we have something like aligned, which will just keep them together. And then we have vector. We have automatic, and then we have auto clamp. So clamp is just going to kind of flatten it. The ones I used most is just simply going to be aligned, which is going to keep them together, and free, which is just detaching them so I can move them freely. And then of course we could always come into interpolation mode and set this to something like linear, which is going to cause it to go straight. And we can always switch this back to Bezier to give us more control. So inside of our hotkey cheat sheet, we'll see we have some graph editor hotkeys. The main ones that I find that I use most are going to be all of these, but the ones specifically to get to know now are going to be the ones that are going to be highlighted here. So middle mouse scroll is simply going to zoom in and zoom out so we can see a little bit better. If you ever like zoomed out like this, if you simply just do home key, it'll snap and it'll just display whatever keyframes we currently have. A middle mouse button down is going to pan around, and then control middle mouse button up and down, it's going to scale up and down. And then if we do control middle mouse button left and right, it's going to scale left and right. If we want to see the entire timeline, we just simply do number pad period, and that'll just scale the whole timeline. Or we can do home just to scale our current keyframe. So I bounce around between period, number pad period, and home a lot. So be sure to have this handy. These ones highlighted are the ones I just went over, and we'll be covering more of these as we go.